everybody, this is Miss Huval. This video is for English 3 AP. Today's video talks about the rhetorical analysis, which is what we need to know to be prepared for the AP exam. This is actually the third rhetorical analysis passage that I have done a video about. So if you haven't watched the first one, which was about Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan, or the second one, which was about this guy Richard Louve's book, Last Child in the Woods, you need to do those first. This is actually the third rhetorical analysis video. Okay? In order to be prepared to discuss, you need to have printed out, read, and analyzed the 2018 AP Test Question 2. It is a speech made in 1997 by Madeleine Albright to graduates at the Mount Holyoke College. All right? So I've posted that on JPAMS and I've posted it on Moodle. So you need to go find that, read it, and jot down the rhetorical devices that you see in that particular passage before you watch this video. Okay? So pause me now, go do that, and when you come back, I'll assume that you've read it and you know what's going on. All right, the breeze is blowing, and so my signs are blowing today. All right, so hopefully in reading question 2, you began where it tells who the speaker is and what her purpose is. All right, so always on a rhetorical analysis, the first thing that we're going to do is take a look at the author, the context, the audience, and the purpose. And a lot of time that information is divulged in the prompt at the top, okay? And that's the case here. At the top it says, in 1997, then United States Secretary of State Madeleine Albright gave the commencement speech to the graduating class of Mount Holyoke College, a women's college in Massachusetts. Read the following excerpt from her speech carefully. Then write a well-developed essay in which you analyze the choices Albright makes to convey her message to the audience. Okay? So code there to convey her message. That's the purpose. We've got the speaker, who's Madeleine Albright. The context is a commencement address. So the audience is the graduates of the class of 1997. Excuse me. All right? So the audience is all women. That's another important aspect to consider. So what is Madeleine Albright's purpose? Okay? Now, she was the former Secretary of State for Bill Clinton. And so her connection with him is important to note. And she mentions him in the second paragraph of this particular speech. And so that's key. You got to remember that. So in the end, what Madeleine Albright's trying to do, and I'm sure this jumped out at you, was to encourage these women who are graduating from college that what they ought to be doing in their lives is not settling for doing good things, but to strive to do great things. All right? And she makes that point over and over again. She says it's going to be difficult. She gives examples out the wazoo of when the United States did good things, but they didn't rest on their laurels. They strove to do even better things. She gives examples of women in countries all over the world who have, in the face of serious adversity and against all likelihood, gone on to do amazing things. Okay? And then she says to them, in all likelihood, these women, in all likelihood, when you go out to do great things, there are going to be roadblocks in your way. And what you have to do is keep striving and keep moving forward. So that's her message, okay? And if you didn't get that exact message, but you got something similar, like striving, continuing to try to do good, persevering over bad odds, etc., then you got the main idea. So there's not just one purpose that's going to be the right answer, okay? And when you go to write your thesis, you are going to be telling the rhetorical devices that she uses to achieve her purpose. So you've got to be able to verbalize that purpose, or at least get it down in writing, okay? So we're going to go with don't settle for good, strive for greatness. Okay, that's going to be our purpose. So what rhetorical devices does she use to help her to achieve her purpose? All right, that's what we're asking ourselves as we're reading and as we're analyzing. Okay, so that'll be our thesis. How does she use rhetorical devices to achieve her purpose? All right, and then we'll plug in whatever rhetorical devices we decide she uses. All right, now as I was reading this, and I'm sure it hit you too as you were reading it, the biggest thing you notice is her focus on multiple examples. Okay, she's got a ton of examples, and her examples break into three categories if you look at them. They're examples of what the United States has done under the leadership of Bill Clinton's administration, of which she was a cabinet member and a very integral part. Then she moves to a more international look. She talks about women from Burundi, Sarajevo, Guatemala, and Burma who have done amazing things in the face of adversity and at great personal risk to themselves. Then she moves to this particular group of women that she's speaking to at Mount Holyoke College. And she says, if you're not encountering pushback or resistance, you're doing something wrong. And she gives examples of things they're going to face and how they ought to deal with them when they get there. So example is the primary way that she gets her evidence out there, okay? So whenever we're talking about evidence, of course, that should pop into your brain as logos, all right? So let's talk about this. Logos is our use of evidence. And in here, we've got examples. We've also got inductive reasoning, and I don't know if you remember what inductive reasoning is. It's different than deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning, you say what your idea is, and then you back it up, okay? In inductive reasoning, you hold off. You introduce your idea, you give all your evidence, and then you say, pow, this is my main idea. I've given you all this evidence to show that, boom, here's what you got to do. So she's using inductive reasoning. She introduces her idea at the beginning. She says, as individuals, each of us must choose whether to live our lives narrowly, selfishly, and complacency, or to act with courage and faith. She says that in the it is the first sentence of her speech. So she introduces this idea. Then she presents all this evidence, and she closes with her actual purpose. She says, I summon you in the name of this historic college and all who have passed through its halls to embrace the faith that your courage and your perseverance will make a difference, that every life enriched by your giving, every friend touched by your affection, every soul inspired by your passion, and every barrier to justice brought down by your determination will ennoble your life, inspire others, serve your country, and explode outward the boundaries of what is achievable on this earth. So that's where she gets to her real purpose. Go out there, persevere, and do something great. And I promise you that the world will be a better place for it. So she's used inductive reasoning, but say you don't know what that is. You can hone in on examples, okay? Another thing that you're going to notice she does is use parallelism, okay? Now, parallelism is when you use the same grammatic structure over and over again to prove a point. If you look at her examples of what the U.S. has done, she says, look at line 9. We could be satisfied with that. Instead, we're enlarging and adapting NATO. Look at the next paragraph down. Round about line 20, no, 17. We could relax. Instead, we're working to reduce nuclear arsenals. Again, line 21. We could turn our backs now and risk renewed war. Instead, we're renewing our commitments. And so forth and so on. Okay? So that is parallel structure. She says what our achievement is, and then she says we could be happy with that. Instead, we're doing blah, 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 blah. Okay? She does it in her second set of examples as well. She says, take a look at line 29. I have met in Sarajevo with women. Next paragraph. In Burundi, I have seen women. In Guatemala, I have talked to women. And next paragraph. And in Burma, I have met with a remarkable woman. So she uses that same parallel structure. And why does she do it? To grab your attention and let you know that these are all examples. Okay? So the way that she phrases those examples adds to the fact that all these examples go together. All these examples are proving a point. And it's the way she unifies her use of evidence. Okay? She also uses some extremely powerful words. Okay? In listing her examples, in her inductive reasoning, she uses some very powerful words. For one, in line 95, she uses the word faith. She says, it has been said that all work that is worth anything is done in faith. And faith is a loaded word, okay? There's the religious meaning of faith. But then there's also the other meaning of faith, with just you don't know that you're going to be successful. You don't know that it's all going to work out. But you leap out there, you put your all into it, and you have faith that you're going to make a difference. And she goes on to assure these women that if they try and if they persevere, they will make a difference. So this powerful word, faith, she uses a couple times toward the end. All right? And you could point to other powerful words that have a very strong positive connotation. Diction is one of the easiest things in the world to do. So one of your body paragraphs, to prove that she doesn't want them to settle for good, she wants them to strive for greatness, would be how she uses her evidence, logos. And a nesting device that you could use under logos, examples, parallelism, and diction. Now bear in mind, each body paragraph does not have to have 3 different rhetorical devices for your 3 examples. It is enough to have a main one for your whole paragraph and one other one inside of your paragraph, 2 inside of your paragraph. Every example does not have to be a rhetorical device. Don't make that mistake, because then you've got like a list of rhetorical devices instead of an argument, which is what you really ought to have. All right? I bet you the other thing that jumped out at you as you were reading had to do with Madeleine Albright herself and how her message played to her strengths and her achievements. Okay? That all goes to her credibility. And so Madeleine Albright in this particular speech draws from her experience as a woman, number 1, and number 2, as a very powerful person on the global scale in terms of policy and politics. All right? So ethos would be another great thing to write about. Her credibility is very high, okay? And we talked about the same thing with Margaret Thatcher in her speech with Ronald Reagan. So I think that would be a great thing to have a body paragraph about. So you could say, under a paragraph about ethos, that she has great credibility because she was an integral part of the team that did all of these policies, made all of these policies that she outlines. Not only that, and that's from lines 9 to 37, not only that, but she is a woman who has done exactly what she's exhorting these women that she's speaking to do. She has pushed the envelope. She's achieved a lot of things as a woman. And so that's another thing that shows her credibility. She's putting her money where her mouth is because she's done all the things that she's telling them they need to do. The third thing that gives her a lot of credibility is that she's been to all these different places and she's talked to all these different women. She lists them here in the second column. Sarajevo, Burundi, Guatemala, and Burma specifically. She's the one who's been there personally herself, and she makes that point. She's spoken to these women, and she can personally testify to the things that they have done. All of those things increase her credibility greatly. Now, that doesn't necessarily give you a nested, that's three ideas you could talk about, but that doesn't necessarily give you any nested rhetorical devices, and you need to have at least one in each body paragraph. So, you could nest pathos. You could say she uses emotionally charged words to play on the audience's emotions. And a lot of that takes place in these women, in the examples from the women who have striven against all manner of personal trial to triumph. She gives you an example here of women in Sarajevo who were weighted down by personal grief, but who have reached across ethnic lines to rebuild their shattered society. So we've got personal grief, shattered society, very emotionally powerful things. These women were devastated and yet found the strength to not wallow in their own personal sadness, but instead to rebuild their society. Okay, there's lots of examples like that in there that you could pick. So you could nest pathos under ethos. Or you could go with repetition, which is a rhetorical device as well. She repeats, I have. She repeats, in that section she repeats, I have. Or you could go with these examples that she gives to the women. She says, take a look at line 73. Well, it starts in line 69, actually. As you go along in your own road in life, you will, if you aim high enough, also meet resistance. Next paragraph, line 75. There is no doubt, if you aim high enough, that you will be confronted by those who say your efforts to change the world don't mean much. Next paragraph. It is certain, if you aim high enough, that you'll find your strongest beliefs ridiculed and challenged. Next paragraph down. Inevitably, if you aim high enough, you will be buffeted by demands of family, friends, and employment that will conspire to distract you from your course. All right? So you could use either one of those examples of repetition to show her, to tie back into ethos. Okay? If you aim high enough, that shows ethos because she has that experience herself. All right? So, remember, when you're writing a rhetorical device on the a rhetorical analysis on the AP exam, you are only going to have 2 body paragraphs. You've only got 45 minutes to write, and there's not enough time for you to write 5 full, solid body paragraphs. So I want you to shoot for 4. That means you need 2 main rhetorical devices and a couple of other ones that you can nest inside your body paragraphs. Now, in your thesis, you're only going to mention the main ones. So if I was writing this essay, okay, I would say that she uses logos and ethos to express her purpose, which is that the graduates of the women who are graduating from this institution, I can't talk, should not settle for good, but instead strive for greatness against all the odds that will invariably come. But I'm only going to mention ethos and logos. I'm not going to mention all of them, just the 2 main ones, okay? And it would be great if you could not say she uses ethos and pathos like I did, but instead, Madeleine Albright relies on her ethos to achieve her purpose of blah, 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 through the use of incredibly effective logos, something like that. All right? So you got 4 paragraphs total. Introduction, body 1, body 2, conclusion. Make sure inside these body paragraphs that you are citing line numbers and that you're using quoted material. That's extremely important. Finally, don't skimp on that conclusion, all right? Try to have some powerful projection into the future, okay? If everyone took Madeleine Albright's advice, man and woman, imagine blah, 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 how the world could be, blah, 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 something like that. Okay? Now, here's what I want you to do. This is the 3rd time we've done it. We're beyond the outline stage. I want you to write a really rough draft. And I want you to limit yourself to 45 minutes. Now, it's not actually testing conditions because we've already discussed all this. But limit yourself to 45 minutes. Write a really rough draft and email it to me so that I can read it and make some comments and send it back to you. All right, guys, it's May 1st. That means we are drawing very close to the AP exam. We got to get straight what we're doing. So everybody do this for me. Email it to me, and we'll see where we are. Bye. Have a great day.